I just unmute the microphone there and make sure the audio is coming through. Well, hello and welcome into this Monday evening, night, morning, wherever you may be's entertainment news. I am Jonathan C. Walsh. I'm your host for this evening. Tonight, in our case, it's 20 to 11 p.m. It's most definitely night, it's not the evening. Even though for me, living in Midwest American time, it is the evening because my night's long and there's a long way to go. To my left, I digress, Stephen John McLaughlin, co-host for this evening, sporting the Adidasla cap and the glasses, looking very much like, I don't know, Buddy Holly or something, Stephen. Would you say that's a Buddy Holly special? I had a pair of glasses like that back in the day. They didn't suit me though. They suit you far better.
I'll take that, John. I will take that.
I've got a very
big fan of Buddy.
Got a very specific head shape, and not every type of glass frames go with me. Put these glasses on, they're very dusty though. No, that's not going to work, is it? I need to clean them up. I digress. We're here to discuss a number of topics. Stephen, I see we had a comment from Derpy, I believe, saying that it looks like AI. I believe he's referring to the Doctor Doom concept art on the thumbnail. I can assure you that it is not AI. As far as I'm aware, it is concept art, which has been leaked. Although, to be fair, in today's day and age, you can never write it off, can you? I've seen some videos recently which are quite frankly demented, with a certain football club's management team dancing, and it's AI, and it's really disturbing. This hat is so fucking baggy, it's crazy. It's like the Boston Red Sox hat I gave you back in the day, Stephen, that was pushing your ear down.
It's like
it's so baggy.
Funnily enough, Gene Hackman ears, that's what it was like.
Gene Hackman, we'll get on to the past. Do you want to talk about Gene just now, to be fair?
John,
I think this would probably be the time. I've not got a sort of dedicated topic bar because I always feel that's a little bit. I mean, we did it with blanking on the name, terrible, Roberta Flack the other day, but that was sort of eulogising. This is more like just touching on it. First and foremost, tragedy that we've lost him, man. I know he was in his late 90s, I think, mid-90s. He was very much an older gentleman who had been around the block many, many times before I was even a glint in my mother and father's eye. But when you lose someone of that standing, much like we says the end of last week. When was it? I've lost my mind. Was it like the beginning of last week?
It was the middle of last week. Probably about a week and a half ago, John, yeah.
When you lose someone of that standing, that you have to discuss it, Stephen. This guy's a legendary actor who has co-starred with so many other legendary actors. One of the great thespians of his generation. Obviously, there's a whole oddness to the way that he's passed. There's a lot of conspiratorial stuff, and I think there's an investigation ongoing into the past and talks of potentially gas leaks, overdoses. We don't want to get into that side of things because you're just speculating, and it just comes across a little bit odd. But needless to say, absolutely terrible news. I mean, I've said it time and again, Stephen, like of Mel Brooks, Clint Eastwood, thankfully still with us at the moment, but that generation, truly great generation of filmmakers, of actors, are getting to that worrying age now where they're ready to start passing away, and once you've lost people of that standing, man, I fear for film in the future. We've not got people like that now.
Yeah, I watched Morgan Freeman's tribute to Gene Hackman on the Oscars last night, and it was so touching. And the both of them worked together in two films, one of them being Unforgiven. John, it's funny, Gene Hackman has always been a big part of my life. My dad was a massive fan of the actor via The French Connection.
Better.
And then right into the sort of 1980s films as well, Mississippi Burning. And you've got to remember, Gene Hackman, he didn't really become a prominent, household name till he was in his 40s, which is incredible when you think about it. Similar to Morgan Freeman in a way when you think about it.
Yeah,
but
he was older,
This guy's been acting since the early 1950s. So he's had a very illustrious career, particularly the 70s, 80s and 90s was his sort of golden era, but he'll be sadly missed. And I was deeply shocked when this news came through. I think I saw his name trending on X first and foremost, and I kind of knew he was 95 because I do see these articles coming up every now and again about him being a recluse, you know,
Yeah.
for the best part of 20 years now. I think his last film was in 2004.
Dean,
And
I remember the first time I'd seen him in a long, long time. It was a couple of years ago. He was out getting shopping or whatever, and I was really shocked at how he looked, because I don't know about you, Stephen, but when I think of actors or singers or whatnot, and unless I'm seeing a recent image of them, my mind just goes back to what I picture them being like 20, 30, 40 years ago. And in my mind, they still look like that. Like Paul McCartney, it's not until I see a photograph or something, I'm like, fucking hell, he's really old now. I just think of Paul when he was in the 60s and the 70s. And you're always kind of surprised, like, holy shit. When I seen Gene Hackman, I was like, wow, unrecognisable. I'm like, is that really Gene? But like he says, he was a kind of reclusive figure. I think he moved to New Mexico to get away from the sort of the bubble, the toxicity of Hollywood, which I know nothing of, but I've heard of. And who can blame him, Stephen? Once you've reached a level of fame, a certain age, you don't have to put up with that shite anymore, the sycophants, the brown-nosing. You just get away and live your life in peace. Sean Connery did it. He retired quite young, didn't he? What, 60 odds? Get away from it, Joe Pesci.
Gene Hackman was 95 when he passed away, John. Yeah. So his last film was 20 years ago. So he retired in his 70s. And for a lot of people like ourselves, we regard that as old age, you know. So for him to have 20 years of a retirement is, I suppose, a blessing in a way. You know, you've got to look at that and celebrate his life rather than look at the sort of doom and gloom of it. John, that's what we talked about before we came on. We didn't really want to talk about, obviously, the circumstances of his passing, because we're not E-entertainment. We're not Goremeisters. We're here to celebrate actors. We're here to celebrate film. That's what we do on this channel. And yeah, we sadly missed John. My first experience of the man's acting was obviously Superman. It was just that I was that age. I was born in 1976 and the film came out in 78. And to me, as Lex Luthor, there's no one came close, not on TV or any of the films since. You know, I've seen Kevin Spacey and Jesse
Eisenberg,
I blanked on his name. Try to follow in his footsteps, and they just can't do it. There's something about Gene Hackman's charisma and his performance in that film, and there's a reason he was top billing with Marlon Brando. That's the calibre of this man's acting. He was top billing on Superman with Marlon Brando. Christopher Reeve had to take third spot.
Superman.
It's crazy when you think about it, but it just goes to show the man's calibre. And as I said, Mississippi Burning with Willem Dafoe is probably one of the standout ones I saw later when I was in my teens, which I thought was a fantastic film. But you look at those films, even in the 1990s when he was in his 60s, it's one great film after another he was in.
Yeah,
John,
Enemy of the State.
What film I saw him in was actually Young Frankenstein. I forgot he was in Young Frankenstein.
What? Was he in Young Frankenstein?
I'm just looking through just now. He played the old blind man.
Christ almighty. Young Frankenstein's one of my all-time favourite films.
Yeah.
Stephen, for me, he was. Yeah, he played the blind man in Young Frankenstein. You're right, Stephen. I mean, for me, that's always going to be Peter Boyle and Gene Wilder for that. And obviously Marty Feldman. They're these standout figures in that film. They're the sort of eye-catchers. But for me, growing up around my grandfather, one of his all-time favourite films, and it rubbed off on me, was The Poseidon Adventure. And obviously he was in there, alongside the likes of Ernest Borgnine and whatnot. Absolutely legendary film about the capsizing ship and trials and tribulations of survivors trying to get to the top and survive. Fucking unbelievable in it, and that was a stacked cast. But you get through and it's just, like you say, Stephen, throughout his career, multiple decades of hit after hit after hit. The French Connection. Obviously, you move on, you've got Bridge Too Far, classic World War II film. Again, my grandfather, growing up, watched these films with him all the time. Probably on Hallmark back in the day, but they were on the telly all the time. As a kid, I was, what would you call it? I don't want to use the correct word here. I was exposed to these actors in these films, like In the Heat of the Night, Rod Steiger and Sidney Poitier. Films that someone in 11, 10, 8, 9 years of age probably wouldn't watch of their own volition, but when you're around older people at that time, you get to see it and you get to experience these great performances. So, even though I'm a little bit younger than yourself, not much, but I'm a little bit younger, I didn't get the pleasure of seeing him in his absolute pomp. They are the due, to be fair, Stephen. I mean, you could argue, I mean, he had great films in the 90s, but certainly the 80s and the 70s was that era. If you look through his sort of filmography, and you were a little bit young even then, but I still got to experience what the guy was bringing to the table, and an absolutely brilliant, brilliant actor. You followed again, he's been involved in a Western movies, White Earp, Unforgiven, Crimson Tide, another submarine film. I'm trying to remember who was in that, but I always get that mixed up with the Hunt for Red October, I think it's called. I don't know why. It's not the same film, but
Denzel Washington, he was in Crimson Tide with,
Was that the one about the Russian nuclear? No, it's not. No, it's a totally that. It's probably Hunt for Red October. Probably the other one.
Yeah.
But he's just a brilliant actor, and he had a distinguished career. Obviously, he did retire, and he got to enjoy his retirement. A dog lover as well, so I always think of the animals in moments like this, and what's going to happen with them when they've been given a great life with people who truly love them. And obviously the owners pass away, and in this case it's obviously his wife's passed away as well, so you always think of the dogs and how they're getting on. That's the way my mind works. Strange, I know. But yeah, just it's sad to see the guy passed away. We've lost another legendary figure. I did see Morgan Freeman, by the way. It's hard to believe Morgan's in his late 80s now as well. He's been around for so long. It's not really hard, because you think back to 95, was it? When The Shawshank Redemption was out, and it was pretty fucking old back then. The guy had white in his hair back then, and that wasn't yesterday. That was 30 years ago. There's all those 95 born people turning 30 now. Get it up, ease. Welcome to the club, bitches. But yeah, it's a shame to see the guy passed away, and also the manner in which he's passed away. A little bit odd, I'm sure. We'll get to that at some point, but like you said, Stephen, we're not E-Entertainment or that other one. What's the other one that's a sort of the Ghoul kind of publication? It was on the Liam Payne death and all of that, minutes after it happened. Forget what their name is.
I stay clear of these channels, John, to be honest with you, because it's not in their nature, because they're on doing one thing and one thing only, and that's to generate clicks, and they've no morals, and they've no respect. And as I said, I've followed it enough because just for the sort of closure side of things, because I was a fan of the actor, but I'm not really want to sit down and watch back-to-back hour-long specials on his passing and his wife's passing. I think it should be respected, it should be private. I'm sure there'll be an official announcement out on both their passings and an official confirmation of the reason for their deaths as well. But John, a fantastic actor. He's not been prominent for the last 20 years, but his films are always on repeat. You turn on any channel, you see Gene Hackman turn up on TV. He's got such a catalogue of films, and even small minor roles like we mentioned, Young Frankenstein, Enemy of the State, where he was only in it as, I don't know what his screen time was, maybe 10 minutes or something like that.
So
then, like Robert De Niro, he would branch into other genres as well. The Royal Tenenbaums being one of them. It stands out for me in 2001. He'd always jump into different genres and try himself out in comedies, and he did have a humour about him. He certainly showed that playing Lex Luthor in the Superman films as well. He always had a kind of comedic timing about him as well. So an incredible actor. He's going to be sadly missed.
Absolutely, couldn't put it better myself. Going to move on though to the headline topic of the stream tonight. I've says in the topic bar there, MCU fans are disappointed, ... again. It seems like... Disappointed! Seems like they're constantly disappointed these days, MCU fans. It's a far cry from the Elysian days of the Infinity Saga, where it was hit after hit after hit. 3 years, three times a year, there would be hits, multiple billion-dollar grossing movies in a calendar year. Just a complete juggernaut of a franchise with unbelievable, unstoppable momentum, coinciding with 2 back-to-back brilliant Avengers movies, brilliant character art and development of Robert Downey Jr. Robert De Niro was not in it. He may yet appear in it as a variant at some point. fucking wouldn't put it past him. Robert, obviously Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark. Where they're at now, though, obviously Robert's come back, and that's the bone of contention here for some fans. Stephen, I've got to say, I mean, it's a storm in a teacup, isn't it? It's fucking... What are they disappointed about? We'll get into it just now. We'll bring it up, shall we?
It's a concept art, John.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I don't mind it at all.
It's this year, isn't it? They're moaning about him having the helmet on or the mask on all the time. It's a concept fucking image, man, showcasing what the character is about. He's not going to have the mask on the entire film. At some point, it will come off. That's why they've cast Robert Downey Jr. They could have cast anybody. And even if he does keep the mask on all the time, Stephen, it's not that big a deal. Pedro Pascal in The Mandalorian wears that helmet constantly.
Yeah.
He's not even in the suit all the time. Sometimes it's other actors doing physical stuff. But he still brings the personality, and you associate the character with Pedro Pascal. I don't believe... It's not disappointing, is it? Maybe for people who are Marvel enthusiasts, the actual comic book stories, it's disappointing for them because it's not Victor Doom. Is that what his name is? It's Victor, isn't it? The actual...
Doom, yeah.
Victor,
John,
yeah.
I kind of understand that, you know, if perhaps maybe a Robert Downey Jr. fan, you're going to be disappointed. You're not going to see that pretty face that often in this role. But in terms of obviously Pedro Pascal and The Mandalorian, obviously the need for that was because it was part of the lore of the character and his
Can't
people.
take the helmet off, yeah.
As you said, it's just concept art, and you're not going to have him unmasked. This is the first sort of vision we're going to see of this character, and albeit concept art, he's going to have the mask on because that's what the character's famous for. We know what Robert Downey Jr. looks like, so we don't have to have concept art of him with the mask off. But I'm pretty sure once the film unfolds, we're going to see a lot of Robert Downey Jr. You don't get somebody like Robert Downey Jr. and keep his face behind the mask the whole film. It's not going to happen. And it didn't happen, I think, in the first Fantastic Four film either. I'm trying to remember the actor. Julian, he was an Australian actor who played Victor Von Doom in the first Fantastic Four film. We saw plenty of his face in that film.
Yeah, you're definitely got. I mean, he's going to take the mask off. I just don't understand the disappointment from certain fans. I think they just want to moan about anything now. Incidentally, hello, Mike. Mike's still in love with the MCU. To be fair, I still love the MCU as well. I'm willing it to rebound back, and I think the casting of Robert Downey is just the trick to do it. I think he will reinvigorate it. The guy was like the godfather behind the scenes. He was the patriarchal figure. You're not allowed to say that now. They don't like the patriarchy now. We can't talk about those things. That's a dirty word. But he was this sort of patriarchal figure behind the scenes. He was the guy people went to. He was the gel, the sort of glue that binded everything together. So bringing him back in immediately, you've got that presence, that brilliant acting, and he's playing a villainous turn now. So I'm all for it. Personally, I didn't like the Kang character. I wasn't overly enamoured with that character at any point. Stephen, we discussed this not long ago, and his little cameo, probably more than a cameo to be fair. I've still not seen Ant-Man, by the way. I have to watch Ant-Man. I know you've seen it, Stephen. I know he was definitely in that.
Yeah.
In a bigger way, but I think a Loki.
Jonathan Majors was good in the character.
He's a great actor.
I don't think it was utilised properly. Our first introduction to this character in live action was in Loki. And he wasn't even playing the villainous evil version of Kang. It was very light-hearted and
it was a sort of tired, broken version.
I just thought, this is coming off the back of Thanos, and the big menacing villain we've just experienced over the last decade or so. And this is how you introduce the next one. A terrible decision. And to do it in a web series as well was wrong.
I can understand why the rationale for that, though, because it is multiple variants. You can introduce a sort of benevolent one who's been around for so long, he's just bored, he wants change, he wants to give it up, almost sacrifice himself and give that man over to someone else. And then you can bring in another variant down the road which is pure evil, all powerful, They could have.
I think
They could have told
I
that
think the
story.
rationale behind it, John, was I think Kevin Feige and Marvel were thinking, let's do the total opposite for what people are going to expect.
Yeah.
Let's do the total opposite of Thanos, basically. And they did that.
I mean, you
But
think of Thanos.
it was very underwhelming.
It was,
You
and
know?
that's why I'm happy with obviously Doctor Doom coming in, because he's not underwhelming. He's a very powerful character, and you've got a brilliant actor in Robert Downey Jr., an Academy Award-winning actor, a guy who's well known with the fan base, well respected and loved by the fan base. He's coming back. I never understood the backlash from certain quarters about casting Robert. Again, I understand it's not maybe what the lore was in the actual comic books, and they're maybe throwing in a little curveball. Ultimately, you've got to do what's best for the franchise. The franchise has been on a little bit of a low ebb compared to where it was 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And bringing Robert back can only be a Brucey bonus. We've still got Tom Holland to come back as Spider-Man as well. We've still got, and we'll get into that obviously here. You've got, this is a great one. You've got Star-Lord sitting with Vision with a beer. That just immediately takes me back to Thor and his sort of funk.
Yeah.
With obviously your man, Taika Waititi's character, in his little man cave, playing Fortnite and whatnot, and abusing people. That's what I'm seeing. There's a lot of drinking. What's like garlic bread.
Oh, he's calling me a dickhead again. Love that.
These two, Stephen, I'm looking forward to Vision coming back in a big way. Paul Bettany's brilliant, man. He's a great actor. Love him. Love him behind the scenes. The press junkets, he's immaculate all the time, right down to his glasses game. So I'm looking forward to seeing where that character's been, what he's been up to. That was one of the most sort of interesting aspects of WandaVision. Wanda was great, Scarlet Witch, Elizabeth Olsen, brilliant. But Vision, in this different version, this rebuffed Vision, and he obviously went away. Where has he been? What's he been up to? What state's he going to be in when he comes back? We need these big sort of Titan-like figures for the Avengers. That's been my main concern. Post Steve Rogers and post Tony Stark, where do you go with the Avengers, man? Who's the leader of the Avengers?
How long has it been since WandaVision? It's been quite a while now, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has,
3, 4
yeah.
years.
Is Scarlet coming back? I don't know. I heard she chucked it.
I'm trying to remember the one with the rings. What was the character called? Against me that fucking long.
The Rings. Oh, Shang-Chi.
Yeah. Shang-Chi.
Oh, I love Shang-Chi.
It's been almost 5 years since we saw Shang-Chi.
That's fucking terrifying. Has it really been 5 years?
Structured. I might be wrong, John, but it's been a while.
Fucking hell.
But my point being is there's no structure to this phase at all. In the build up to these Avenger films, it's very dysfunctional the way it's been handled over the past 3 years or so. I think since the pandemic, it's just not recovered at all in terms of momentum and consistency and quality as well. And I don't think it has the same build-up. I think once we see perhaps maybe the Fantastic Four, I think we'll be ready for Doomsday.
Yeah.
I think obviously just leading up to that. I know obviously there's going to be little spoilers and Easter eggs and every other Marvel thing that's going to be coming out up to this point anyway. But it just doesn't seem to have the same momentum, doesn't seem to have the same anticipation as before, which is sad. But I'm looking forward to seeing Robert Downey Jr. again. I'm looking forward to see him portray this role because I'm very interested in see how he's going to come across, how he's going to tackle it and be a convincing villain. I know he's got it in him. I've seen plenty of his films to know that he's got range, but just sort of taking us away from obviously the Tony Stark. We need to move on from that, and this is the perfect. This is the perfect way to do it, So I'm looking forward to it, and
it allows him to show his range as well as an actor.
Yeah.
He comes in and plays a different role, total villainous turn in the same universe. It allows him to show what he's capable of. Obviously, just the way that as you touched on, Stephen, it's been kind of discombobulating the way that they've handled this. I still believe that post Endgame there should have been a break of 3 to 4 years minimum before they resumed getting into films, because people had been on a journey with those characters and they were spent emotionally after it.
Yeah.
And you need a natural break in there. Understand the nature of Hollywood and the movie business. Money's king. And when the movies are still making money, you want to get right back on it again and churn those movies out. But when you've not got Thanos, you've not got Tony Stark, you've not got Steve Rogers, there's a huge void there. And I feel that, and I presume Kevin Feige did plan out with also the creative team at Marvel what was happening next years in advance, because we know they had a sort of raw cut of these two Avengers movies, Infinity War and Endgame, years in advance. I presume they did have this sort of vision, but it just felt like it was a little bit discombobulated post-Endgame. Obviously, you had a couple of straggler movies, the No Way Home, for instance, brilliant. I like Shang-Chi, I thought it was a great movie. Simu Liu, brilliant. The villainous character, the father, I think that's one of the most interesting villainous stories in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe today. I just found that character tragic, and his relationship with Shang-Chi was brilliant. And you had the right amount of comedic levity with Aquafina and characters like that. Visually, the music, it was just a brilliant... I've really enjoyed that film. But in the main, it's been a struggle.
But, yeah, I mean, I agree. I think they should have took a break. And I don't know if perhaps maybe... you know, Spider-Man Far From Home came out, I think, maybe 2 or 3 months after Endgame. And I don't know how much Marvel had a say in its release.
I mean, that was Sony, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think Sony probably pushed that. I think this was round about the time they were having a little bit of a disagreement, wasn't it? And perhaps maybe this was part of it. I think Sony wanted to cash in on Endgame and where we were at with that. And this was the next film in terms of obviously the Marvel characters. Far From Home, the one with obviously Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
It was a great film, but I think it was just too soon. It was far too soon after Endgame. I thought perhaps maybe not 3 years, but I think maybe take a year off. Let's have a breather and let's recover from this Infinity Saga, and then we'll resume. But they just went right into it. I'm trying to remember the film that came right after Far From Home. It perhaps maybe have been one of the new characters. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Was it not the Eternals? Did the Eternals not come out? I'm going to search it up just now. MCU. It's not news, for fuck's sake. MCU movies.
I can't remember. It was so long ago now. You're talking maybe 5-6 years ago.
Go to here and we'll see. We'll go to Face. And we'll see if I can scroll through rather awkwardly through Wikipedia and try and find out exactly what came out afterwards. Not this. We're not interested. Video game tie-ins, that's not what I'm looking for. I think it may have been Eternals that came out after Endgame. I think that was the first Phase 4, was it?
Yeah.
Movie? I don't know. It was something... I mean, I've still not seen Eternals to this day. I was just checked out that film. And Chloe Zhao also was an Academy Award-winning director at the time. So she had all the actors within it, the likes of Richard Madden and whatnot. I enjoy his actors, but for me, I don't know, I heard bad things about it.
2021 that came out, John, so it couldn't have been the Eternals.
No, couldn't have been then. Could it not? When was Endgame?
2019.
2019? Fucking hell.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'd have to look at the release slate again. I know that was one of the first, because it explained, they had to go out the way to explain why the Eternals didn't step in during the events of Endgame, why they were absent. Yeah. But I can't remember the exact chronology of films that were released post-Endgame, but I know Shang-Chi was definitely one. Also Spider-Man. Eternals came out, and then you had this sort of transition, this weird period where they transitioned into TV. And you had WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki. And then we started getting into the likes of fucking...
Black Widow as well, John.
Black Widow came out, yeah. Black Widow may have been one. Yeah, I think that actually was the first. Was that not the first one?
That came out early 2020.
That was during the pandemic.
Yeah. Could have been then, yeah.
Yeah, because that was a strange sort of tag-on one, because she was already gone by that point as a character, and we went back, we were trying to introduce the Yelena character and whatnot. Taskmaster, was that the one that was in that as a villain? I'm trying to remember. But it's just been discombobulated. It's been weird the way they've handled Marvel post-Endgame. They've not went back to the formula that was so successful in the Infinity Saga, where you would produce brilliant standalone movies, connect the story in a sort of sub-franchise, and you would branch out and connect everything in the post-credits. In these last 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 films, however many it's been, I just feel like they've been trying to force the multiversal stuff to the detriment of the actual standalone films.
And then
you're chasing it.
After Endgame came, as we said, Far From Home, and then after that we were going into the multiverse saga. And it started with Black Widow, which is a kind of flashback film. It wasn't set within the time period. We then had Shang-Chi, Eternals, No Way Home, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, and Black Panther and Wakanda Forever. I think the Doctor Strange and Thor films hurt the MCU in an unexpected way, John, because they were very unfulfilling.
Thor for me was terrible. I was really disappointed by that, because Thor as a character was developed into something radically different to what we got in the first movie. He was freed up. He wasn't this sort of stuffy, wooden kind of character. He became, I don't know, a totally different beast. And you had the likes of the fucking Guardians in there with a briefly, what was. I just thought that had so much potential. That you've got Christian Bale coming in as Gore the Godslayer, or whatever, I think God Butcher, I can't remember the actual name of the character, it's been so long, but just so disappointing. I remember when we seen the trailer, just technically what they were doing with him. Obviously, Christian Bale's character, I think it was black and white, it was almost like colourless, the environment he was in. It was almost like Dune, with the Austin Butler character. And it just dropped the ball for me. The story was so underwhelming. Obviously, Doctor Strange, I mean, fucking one of the biggest disappointments in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. One of my favourite films is Doctor Strange, the first film. The transformation of that character is unbelievable.
Character in his own film.
To introduce, what is it, fucking America Chavez or something? I forget her. I keep forgetting names tonight. Because I've kind of checked out with Marvel recently, and it's bizarre because 5, 6, 7 years ago I would watch every single film religiously. And even the films I have watched,
which we both enjoyed.
Yeah, I liked that. It was a good film.
We couldn't get it out.
We did react to it,
Phase 5, moving into Phase 5 with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which was an excellent film.
Loved it.
The Marvels, which I've not seen. Then with Deadpool and Wolverine. And they just came out last month, obviously, Captain America New World Order, which is doing well at the box office.
Is it doing well?
In May, we've got the Thunderbolts coming up.
I'm looking forward to Thunderbolts. I think that's got a lot of potential, that film.
And then in the summer, we've got Fantastic Four, so hopefully things are picking up now.
Spider-Man coming back, and I'm really looking forward to that, where we go with Spider-Man moving forward, because that's the Spider-Man we know and love now.
Yep.
But he's matured, he's stepping out on his own 2 feet. He's not got the sort of, no harm to them, but the baggage of the Zendaya character and his little friend, whose name always eludes me.
Ned.
Ted, what is it, Ned?
Ned, yeah.
Ned. We've not got them as sort of emotional baggage. He's freed to become the Spider-Man we know and love. So I'm really looking forward to that, potentially another trilogy with that character. Because he's a big personality, he's a potential leader of the Avengers moving forward. But I'm just looking, Stephen, and I'm trying to work out the amount of hits we've had post-Endgame. And when my mind hits, Deadpool and Wolverine was a hit. No Way Home was a hit. I liked Hawkeye as a TV show. I thought that was a hit. I really enjoyed that. Wakanda Forever was a hit. I loved WandaVision. That was a hit for me. Guardians 3 was a hit. I mean, maybe I'm talking shite here when I say Shang-Chi was a hit for me. So, I mean, that's like sucking 7 projects, TV and movies that were, in my mind, good, but the rest, for me, were disappointing.
I think the problem is there's no Steve Rogers and there's no Iron Man. I think that's the issue with a lot of people. Those voids have never been filled. As good as these films have been, they've not got those guys in there. They've not got
the lack of story, Steve. It's a lack of creative cohesion. There's no... I mean, literally Kang has disappeared because of issues with Jonathan Majors, so they're in a creative disarray. They've had to bring back Robert Downey Jr. with Doctor Doom. There's no... with the Infinity Saga, there was a clear vision. You brought in Thanos in a post-credit scene. It wasn't even fucking Josh Brolin at that point. But from that moment onwards, you had this threat lingering in the background. You knew he was there. And it was just one linear journey.
Yeah, Nick Fury was always there
Nick
as well.
Fury. You had this creative cohesion.
Yeah.
Which is now no longer there. It just feels like it's in disarray. It's all throwing shit at a wall and hoping it sticks. And a lot of the times it is sticking, but sometimes it's not sticking. And when you're trying to branch out a creative universe, a cinematic universe, where every character has to work for it all to succeed. You can't have 2 or 3 or 4 characters working. They all have to work for the story, for people to be checked in and want to watch it from beginning to end. There was not one character I didn't care about in the Infinity Saga. I fucking loved them all. Yeah. They were all important. Every single one, even fucking Mantis, who I hated but I still liked, because she was part of that Guardians group. The minor characters to the major characters, you were invested in them. And it built beautifully. There's characters in this cinematic universe now that I just don't give a shit about. And then you've lost another big personality in Scarlet Witch. She's fucking gone. The actor's done. She's checked out.
Yeah.
But getting back to Doctor Doom, I think that's a storm in a teacup. It's bullshit. Who cares whether he's got the helmet on or the mask on the whole film or not? It doesn't matter. It's Robert Downey Jr. He's bringing his A-game. And I think he's the saviour for the universe. I think he will redeem it.
A bit annoyed, John, that his armour looks a bit medieval as well.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by that.
Kind of dressed in white rather than the green that was presented, obviously, for the reveal. But
you need to remember, this is concept. This isn't the final thing. This is the sort of conceptual artist coming up with a sort of framework for the film. It can change. They'll make changes to it. I mean, you look at this one here, it looks like fucking hell. It looks like Chadwick Boseman. And it shouldn't, because he's passed.
Do you remember the first time we saw John Walker? It was horrendous.
Yeah.
It was he had this little squidgy face, and his ears were kind of sticking out like this over the mask.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Who is this gimp?" And it's obviously Wyatt Russell, but he's certainly not a gimp. He's actually a very good character.
No, I'm really looking forward to Thunderbolt, Sam, and he's in there.
Yeah.
With obviously Red Guardian, you've got Bucky in there, you've got Taskmaster, I think Ghost, you've got Elena. I think that's a sort of suicide. I always want to say Squid Game, and I have to check myself all the time. Suicide Squad of Marvel. I think that's got potential. They can explore a different kind of tone and story with that, and then you can bring them back into the sort of greater whole for an Avengers movie. I think there's a lot of potential in there to bring these sort of strange bedfellows and sort of outcasts together and give them something to strive for. I'm looking forward to that film. I think that film will do very well. It wouldn't surprise me if that outperforms Fantastic Four. I'm not going to lie. People know about Fantastic Four. I think Thunderbolts could be the sort of dark horse.
Yeah.
But I think with the Russos back and Robert Downey back and a true villainous sort of big bad lingering in the background now, I think that will go from strength to strength. They just have to reboot and get back to what made it great. Single brilliant storytelling within a film and add it on at the end. Stop trying to force everything.
Yeah.
Build great movies and the rest will do. It'll fall in from there. But time will tell, man. I like the medieval shit. I think that looks really interesting. But you've got these strange sort of fucking multi-Hulk villages. You've got Hulk 1, Hulk 2, Hulk 3, Hulk 4. There's a couple in the background. That does look like AI, to be fair, but I kind of like this. Not that, that's a bit weird, but I like this. I kind of like it's almost like Tudor, fucking England era.
Yeah.
Where they're wearing that weird frilly Pennywise shit. I think that looks quite interesting. It's something different. So, I've got faith, man, with the Russos. The Russos will hit the ball out the park. They've not had a fail yet when it comes to Marvel. So, I'm looking forward to it. But Stephen, shall we move on to the next topic here?
Yeah, let's do it.
By the way, incidentally, if you have anything to say about that topic there, then share your thoughts down below in the comments about Doctor Doom being a bit of a helmet. He's not wearing a helmet, but I thought I'd throw that in there anyway, where people are disappointed about the mask. I couldn't care less as long as we've got Robert Downey bringing his A-game. I'm a happy chappy. And if you want to share about that, put it down below in the comments. But Stephen, Star Wars, did you want to talk about Oscars first, or Star Wars?
I would talk about the Oscars just briefly, John, because most people by this time will know everything about the Oscars, what they want to know, and obviously who the winners were, and I don't think there's too many sort of shocks in there. I think a lot of it, you mentioned obviously the John Compare show in terms of predictions,
Yeah.
and I think a
They
lot
got
of
most of
people
them
were
right.
the same sort of thought, weren't they, in terms of best picture, best actor, actress, etc. And a lot of it was bang on the money. So there's no any great shocks in there. John, funnily enough, and I say this every year when Gianni submits his top 10 films of the year, and you can be sure as hell that half of them will be Academy Award winners, because he's very good at picking out
He knows his
really
shit.
good films, and obviously with the US having that advantage over the UK in terms of seeing these films
I hope
long
you come back,
before.
Stephen. I can't hear you, but hopefully the listeners can hear you. I think they can. You're back.
Yeah,
You're back.
I'll
You're back.
test it in a moment. But just in terms of obviously the release dates of certain films, we don't get to see them perhaps till maybe a month or two before the actual Academy Awards. Sometimes we've seen it, John. So it's good, obviously, when Gianni submits his list, because it gives us a heads up of what's to come.
Yeah, and you know what's good and what's not. Because if it's on his list, you know it's good, because you get immaculate taste. Stephen, I've seen A Complete Unknown. I really liked the film. I thought Chalamet was brilliant. I thought he'd done a brilliant portrayal of Bob Dylan. He had all the mannerisms, the singing was great, guitar playing was on point. Sort of side characters in the story, I don't want to call them side characters, but the sort of peripheral characters, it's not Bob Dylan. They were pretty good. I thought your man, Ed Norton, was brilliant in it. Really good film. Not surprised that Timothy didn't win though. When you've got Adrian Brody in there, and Rafe, as I've discovered, Fiennes, you're always up against it. I mean, Rafe is one of the great actors of his generation, still not won an Academy Award, incidentally. Adrian's, that's him, a two-time winner for The Brutalist. I've yet to see The Brutalist. Conclave, I've not seen the entire film through. I've seen bits of it. I've not watched the entire thing. I've not seen Anora. I think it's on a streaming service. From what I've heard, it's a bit of a Marmite film. It's a Marmite experience.
Yeah.
In the sense that it's also, I think, the sex industry, I want to say, a stripper meets a Russian billionaire. It's kind of come to America, but for the Oscars, where the parents are not in agreement. They want to come over and annul a marriage. That's the kind of vibe you're getting. It's like an Oscar baiting coming to America. A lot of people don't agree with the amount it won. It must have had something about it, because it's swept 5 on the night, or 6 on the night, I think. I think it was 5. Well, at least the director had 5 in his hands, I'm sure. People were saying, 4, what was it? Am I fucking losing my mind? They says that it was the first time. So I think it was 5. Pretty sure it was 5. I don't know, we'll go through the list briefly and we'll find out. But The Brutalist, not surprised Brody's won. Brody's a fucking phenom of an actor. And we reacted to the Brutalist trailer, and it didn't look like the kind of film the Academy would enjoy. And I'm pretty sure that it was Gianni who gave us a heads up about the Brutalist, and we ended up reacting to it based off of what he was saying. So, not surprised to see that. Obviously, you look at actor in a supporting role, and I mean, Kieran Culkin, Compare predicted it. Most people predicted he was going to win. It's a strange time, Stephen, like you says, for us, because Britain seems to get the sort of short straw when it comes to these films. Like you alluded to, we do seem to be the last people on earth. I remember Parasite a couple of years ago, probably about 5 years ago now, fuck's sake. Time's flying that quickly, but we were literally the last region, the last country on earth to see the film. So a lot of these films I've not had the chance to see, but Kieran's been floating around baiting awards for a long time now. I mean, the guy's been picking up awards for quite some time. He's a brilliant actor.
His speech was great as well. Great humour. Just a very easy, down-to-earth guy, considering the family he comes from. And obviously, he's a child actor. Obviously, he appeared in the Home Alone film as the cousin, didn't he? The bedwetting cousin.
Yeah. With the glasses.
I liked. I think, did we react to the trailer? I can't remember. I think we did.
I think we did. Yeah. Was that not the one where it was two like, family members, on a sort of vacation through like Poland or something? I think there was sort of links to like. I keep wanting to say it's a Holocaust, but I don't think it was. But it was something like that. It was like links to family members who were maybe touched by the Holocaust. I'm maybe wrong about that, but I did like to look at it. It looked like a good film.
It was a while ago. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I saw most of the speeches actually. Adrian Brody's, as you can imagine, was emotional.
I love Adrian. I think he's a fucking unbelievable actor. He's just incredible. Even in Peaky Blinders, the guy elevated it. And I'm not speaking down about Peaky Blinders because we've got Cillian Murphy in there, we've got brilliant actors in there, the likes of Tom Hardy. But Adrian came in and he was just sublime. Immediately it went up a level.
Yeah, I mean, we lost, obviously, I'm blanking on his name now. We were talking about him just before we came on, a multi-Academy Award winner.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, Daniel. How can you forget his name? You know, I'm just happy we've got somebody like Adrian Brody still doing what he's doing, because when there was a big void when Daniel Day-Lewis stepped down from acting. But Zoe Saldana in there as well, who's a fantastic actor. You know, most people talk about Zoe Saldana and talk about the franchises she's been in. She's one of those actors that's, you know, accomplished appearances in multiple very big, large franchises. So for her to get the best supporting actress for, is it Amelia Perez?
Amelia Perez, yeah.
And I watched her speech as well. It was so, you know, humbling and just emotional as well. It just comes across as a great person as well. But a few people I was very happy for, and other ones I kind of expected, and I was all right. Okay, Mikey Madsen as well for Anora, a young actor. When we were talking about that, John, just when we were talking about Gene Hackman previously, you know, his career didn't start till, you know, as a household name till he was in his 40s. And when you look at a young actor like Mikey Madsen, it's incredible.
Yeah, there's a lot of hatred for her today. I seen your young fat Irish guy that's floating about GB News now. Used to be on GMTV back in the day. Forget his name. Guy's a twat.
Yeah.
Eamon Holmes.
Eamon Holmes.
Yeah, he was never heard of her. I remember when movie stars used to be movie stars. She's 25, you fucking fat twat. She's coming through, she's a new name. She carried the movie by all accounts on her back. Apparently she was an unbelievable performance in the movie. Again, I've not seen it yet, but by all accounts she was the movie in terms of performances, so I'm not surprised to see her pick up the win. And when you look at I'm Still Here apparently is incredible. I've heard good things about that movie. Amelia Perez, not so good. Demi, obviously, or Demi, as I've since discovered her name, apparently it's pronounced Demi Moore. Demi? Fucking hell, what? I thought it was Demi for years. I thought it was Demi. Apparently it's Demi. Maybe that's another Kate Blanchett moment. Kate Blanchett.
Semi.
Yeah, Semi, yeah, Demi.
Aye.
Demi Moore. Demi Moore. She was the other heavy favourite, but Stephen, you've got a movie that's sweeping the board for Academy Awards. The leading actor in the film, who's carrying the film, it stands to reason she's going to pick up the award. And I don't think Eamon Holmes' opinion on an actor's sort of standing has any relevance.
Normally the case, though. The trend in Academy Awards is normally when you get the Best Picture, you'll either get the Best Actor or Best Actress and the Best Director. It's always... They're always tied.
Then it gets shot on. As soon as it wins, it's a terrible movie because people have to kick the winners down. It doesn't matter. I mean, I remember when Joker was winning, that's a shite movie. Just a rehash of Martin Scorsese, King of Comedy. It's just multiple Martin Scorsese movies, a shite movie. No, it wasn't. It was a fucking brilliant movie. Deserved to win those Academy Awards. Stop talking shite just because your favourite movie didn't win. Boo-hoo. 4-1. Again, I've not watched an animated movie in such a long time.
That was the one I wanted to talk to you about, because I know you love your animated films and independent animated films as well. I've not seen Flo yet. I've seen Inside Out.
4 looks brilliant.
Fantastic film.
4
and
looks
I've always
great.
been a fan of Wallace and Gromit. But no, I've not seen it. I want to see it though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised Inside Out 2 didn't win, with obviously the success it got financially, but from what I've seen of 4, I've seen obviously when they were announcing it, the animation and whatnot, it did look stunning, so fair play to them. Yeah. Obviously, you get through the Brutalist one. I mean, again, you look at that film, I've not seen it, but based off the trailer, it looked like it was stunningly shot, so not really a surprise to me. Wicked costume design. You've got to throw bones to these kind of movies. I mean, it was a massive movie in the year. A couple of actresses, obviously, Ariana Grande and the other actress. were nominated.
Yeah.
You've got to throw a bone to those kind of movies, and that's what we've seen, Stephen. Obviously, Sean Baker won for Anora. Fair play to him. Guy seems a likeable dude. I'm not one of these people that hates on someone because my favourite film didn't win. I mean, I'd have liked James Mangold to win for A Complete Unknown because I'm a Bob Dylan man. I really enjoyed the film, but horses for courses. Obviously, we've seen it with Dune 2. Dune 2 got a couple of wins. I think it was sound design, and there was another one it won for. I think it may have been visual effects or something.
The sound design on Dune Part 2 was phenomenal. Just added atmosphere to the film throughout. And it's funny, you know, sound design normally goes unnoticed in terms of it kind of dissipates. But with Dune 2, I can actually feel it.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm saying feel a sound. It's a feeling. I can actually imagine it in my head just now, the actual sound design.
And it's just little things down to like the vibrations of sort of thumper thing on the sand and just little moments, Stephen. The two people they had in the studio with also Jonathan Ross covering it on ITV in the United Kingdom. One of them, the older woman, perfectly summed it up. A lot of people, when they think of sound, they think of scores and big bombastic stuff, but it isn't. It's the little things. There's an art to sound and bringing things to life. Because if you think of a set and they're shooting this on set, all those little things, the crunching of things under their feet are just the little moments in the film that you hear that bring it to life. They're not captured through the mics on the set. It doesn't work like that. There's people in a room creating these sounds with a variety of different objects. And it's just a stunningly put together movie. I personally think Dune Part 2 got done dirty. I think it was one of the best movies of the calendar year. I'm going to admit just now, I don't think it was the strongest year for films and even performances. There's been years where performances were just stacked. You could have had 3 or 4 winners comfortably in each category. This isn't one of those years. I think there was a lot of momentum with Anora. Amelia Perez got tanned. Lots of people says it didn't deserve the amount of nominations. The Brutalist seems to be a very good film. But when you've got the likes of Wicked, and no harm to Wicked, but Wicked's in there in numerous categories and winning as well. These are movies that wouldn't have had a look in certain years. There's years where it's really, really strong. And I don't think that was one of those years.
Yeah, but I think in terms of the films that were nominated, there's always a pattern of play. And we saw it last year, obviously, with Oppenheimer as well. It's like events, like historical events seems to be a thing that will guarantee. Kate Winslet, I think, summed it up next. Was, you know, certain box ticking things that you can do, you know, if you want to win an Academy Award. And certainly, I think in this instance, certainly boxes have been ticked. But what I will say, John, is it kind of harks back to the whole, you know, argument about cinema being dead. I think when you look at the list of nominations, you know, a lot of independent films and original stories.
Anora,
you know,
$6 million. $6 million movie. It's won 6 Academy, if not more Academy Awards on the night. Swept the board of the major awards: director, best film, or best picture, leading actress or actor. Well, it's actress for this, because there is no singular actor. They don't lump the women and men together. It's best actress. $6 million. That's a fucking. That's a tiny budget. Hollywood's throwing stupid money at movies now, and it's won multiple Academy Awards. So fair play. I like to see small movies like that coming through.
Conclave was in for best sound as well, wasn't it? Obviously, it didn't win. Dune Part 2 won, but Conclave's sound design as well was phenomenal, from what I recall.
Conclave was an interesting film. It really was. I know for a fact my dad loves it, and that's a guy it's hard to police when it comes to films. So he enjoyed it. He enjoyed it a lot. I need to watch the entire thing. I do love Rafe, man. He's just getting back to Voldemort. Ralph Rafe. Apparently Rafe. I'm following the trend now. I'm calling it Rafe. Apparently that's the old way of saying Ralph. Rafe Fiennes. I've always called him Ralph personally, but apparently it's Rafe. I do enjoy him a lot, and I enjoy a good film about sort of the Vatican and the inner machinations of the Vatican. There's been a lot of films like that over the years. You think of that Two Popes one? The one with the 2 popes, I'm forgetting the name of that one. You remember that?
Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah. There's been a lot of movies about the Vatican over the years, and obviously the Tom Hanks one, blank on the name. Jesus Christ. sort of conspiracy one, sort of based on
the Da Vinci Code.
Da Vinci Code. There's been lots of movies of that ilk over the last 15, 20 years. I do enjoy a movie that explores, and obviously with sadly what's going on just now with the Pope, he's kind of clinging on, he's about to pass away by the looks of it. You're going to get that whole ancient thing happening again where a new Pope is obviously nominated and selected, and you've got the white smoke and all the mysteriousness that goes with it. It's a really fascinating process. So I'm kind of drawn to films like that. So by all accounts, unbelievable. It's a great film. A lot of people have really enjoyed it. I need to watch it though. This is a problem with me on the yearly, having the time to actually go and watch movies of this ilk. I mean, I've seen a lot of fucking films this year, to be fair. I have. Not as much as I used to back in the day when I was watching like 100 films a year. Maybe not that much. I remember saying that one of those times in an interview. I think we did an interview with Bartek back in the day, and I said something stupid like I watched 100 films a year. Fucking nonsense. You liar. I was reviewing a film every couple of days or every week, but it was not 100 films. There is not a chance in God's green earth.
There was only 3 years doing it. It's 365 days in a year. So
it probably was about 100, yeah. Yeah, it was 100, to be fair, back in the day. That's why I nearly lost my love for film. I've went the opposite now. Need to start watching more movies again, but
I think, John, at that period as well, I think I exercised the whole Netflix catalogue, which was ridiculous.
But not that shark film. A bear film that almost plays like a shark film. You never watched that one. You get close though. You nearly hit the play button. Oh, that was one of the absolutely iconic outtakes, and I'm willing to say it now, I don't give a shit. That is what it is. One of the classic outtakes from our podcast days back when we were doing audio stuff. Absolute legendary moment where Stephen says, I've seen this one on Netflix. I never quite got to hitting the play button. It's fucking brilliant. Oh, that is great. But no, listen, man. But I enjoyed the ceremony. The ceremony was pretty decent. I thought, obviously, Conan hosting, I thought it flowed well. You had the usual sort of glitz and glam and fucking the usual faces coming on. I like Mark Hamill. Obviously, Robert De Niro, I think, came on and says a certain political comment. And you expect that from Robert. He's in his element. But there is... But I did say it to you, Steve, before we come on. We were briefly discussing it, and there's a lot of fart sniffing when it comes to the Oscars. Let's be honest here, they do. They love a smell of each other's farts. They're just patting each other on the back. It's all very sycophantic, and speeches are the usual fucking patronising bollocks. And sometimes you need a Ricky Gervais in the room to say, look, no one really gives a fuck what your views are on this or that. Just take your little award, say your little speech, keep it brief, and move on. And that's really the way it should go. And to be fair, in the main, that is the way it went. They did. There wasn't any... I mean, there was some tears, but not the usual soapy-eyed bollocks you get. And just fucking 20-minute speeches. So I enjoyed it in the main. I love watching this shit. I find it fascinating. I know a lot of people are switching off from the Oscars, but it's not often we get the chance to see something like this over here. We are certainly the complete antipathy of glitz and glam in Scotland. There's no fucking glitz and glam here. They come here to film the odd film and then they get out as quickly as possible.
On our sort of glitz and glam was highlighted in a Limmy scene where he was at the Scottish BAFTAs and the red carpet was practically on a bus stop. That's his style.
Was that him getting in? He get interviewed? Yeah. He hadn't done his tie up right. Yeah. Very squeaky voice back in the day as well. He loves taking the piss out of his voice. It was kind of like, squeaky like this and very high pitched. I can't do it because I'm not Limmy. I'm me. And I can do my own squeaky Kermit the Frog voice. I digress, Stephen. Shall we move on though to this final topic? An interesting one regards one Kathleen Kennedy and Star Wars, Lucasfilm. She's currently the president of Lucasfilm, the company which, if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, is responsible for producing not just Star Wars but Indiana Jones films and a couple other things as well. Set to step down, I think it was I don't know if it was Variety or one of the major publications, let the cat out the bag. I think they took the feet out from under her. She wasn't expecting it to be announced. There was rumours aplenty last week, and they released an article saying she was going to step down, expected to retire by the end of 2025. She's since come out and spoke on a Lucasfilm plans, says she's never going to retire from making films, and that pretty much she's going to be there as a creative influence on Star Wars for at least the next 8 years. So I just found that interesting. I've seen a lot of channels discussing it recently. Obviously, me and you have got no love loss for Kathleen. I'll go one step further. I think she's been an absolute scourge on Star Wars. She's been introducing all of these politically motivated storylines and characters and just absolute modern day bollocks into a franchise which is very deliberately set in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago. And I'm well aware I said that the wrong way around. It doesn't matter.
It's that important to you, John, these days. No, I saw this news, John, last week, and you know, much like the Gene Hackman breaking news, it happened the day after our live show, so we're only kind of getting around to this now. And
it's the first Friday show again, but on a Monday.
You know, yeah, if this happened, you know, maybe 5 years ago, I would have been a little bit, oh yeah, but yeah, but I don't actually care now. It's the damage is done. You know, in terms of Star Wars, I'm looking forward to Andor. But after that, I don't think I'll be watching much Star Wars after that. There's nothing there that interests me anymore. There's not enough interesting stories out there at the moment in terms of the live action stuff with the Skeleton Crew and all the animated stuff that appeals to me anyway. I don't really care at this point who's running Lucasfilm, because I think the damage was done with the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
It could have been so much and it failed miserably. Everything that was wrong, or everything that could go wrong with a trilogy went wrong with that trilogy. In terms of, you know, just a storyline, a coherent story through 3 films. It's an easier thing to do than you would think, but they managed to fuck it up big style, and it was irreparable after that. And everything that came after that, and The Mandalorian gave us some hope, but it's another one of these sort of storylines that doesn't have longevity. It can't have longevity. You saw that in the season 3 of The Mandalorian. It kind of fizzled out, and I thought it wasn't that great. It was probably on par with the Book of Boba Fett at that point.
Because of Grogu.
Yeah, and the names getting bandied about just now is obviously the obvious ones, and Jon Favreau and
it can't be Filoni. It can't. Filoni's done now. He had his opportunity, obviously, with Ahsoka, to show what he was capable of in a live action set, and obviously he did work on individual episodes for The Mandalorian, but I didn't mind Ahsoka. I always fucking butcher that. I always want to do a Sean Connery, the name's Bond, James Bond, shaking, not stirred. It's Ahsoka. It's not Ashoka.
Ashoka is an Indian restaurant chain.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's pretty damn good.
Yes. We've got a lot of really good Indian restaurants in Glasgow, to be fair. The Koh Anur, Mr. Singh's, Ashoka, Nuanand. There's a lot of really, really Cinnamon Club, really good Indian restaurants. And it's one thing. Mother India. Got a brilliant Indian community, and they certainly know how to fucking cook and get that food to you. So that's one of the few solemn. What's the word I'm looking for? Not solemn. Single fucking perks of staying in this shithole of a city within this greater shithole of a country is that we do have great Indian food. I've been watching a lot of Lad Bible recently, and Americans eating British food and comparing it to American food, and they're not having British food. They're not having the cheese and baked bean and sausage bakes from Greggs, and who can blame them? A disgrace of a country. The culinary exports are nothing short of fucking terrible. When a tikka masala is your national dish, you have went somewhere badly, but I mean, it's not, but you know what I mean? It should be. It's better than haggis. I digress. I don't know where we got any fucking haggis and tikka masala. Ahsoka. He had his chance. I mean, it was an all-right show, but it's not. He's not going to be the successor. He isn't. When she finally does step away, and Lord knows when that's going to be, she seems to be hanging around like a bad smell now. It's almost like it's vindictive. It's like, oh, they're celebrating me leaving at the end of this year. I'll show them. I'll stick around for even longer now, just to stick a dagger into them. And like you said, Stephen,
it's a bit like Alex Ferguson at Man United.
Yeah. And then he threw poor old fucking Davy under the bus. And it took him the best part of a decade to recover. Now he's back at Everton and doing really well after a spell at West Ham, and he did pretty well too. I was going to say as well, but pretty well as well. There's too many wells in there. And it's going to be the same for this. Even when she finally steps away, she's going to be a fucking husk. Whoever steps in is going to have to be something truly special. Truly special. And I can't think of anyone, outside of Jon Favreau maybe, who can step in and save this just dead franchise at this point. She's dragged it through the dirt. Like us lassoing someone in Red Dead Online and dragging them behind us on the horse until they are a broken husk that once resembled a human. Yeah. Every bone in her body is broken. That's what she's done with this franchise. She's fucking murdered it. I say time and again.
My concern is that she'll have a say.
Well, I hope not.
Who is the next president and who she'll recommend, because I can see where it's going.
Someone with a purple rinse in her hair.
I think Geeks and Gamer are going to have a meltdown.
Oh, for fuck's sake. She can't be recommending. We can't be taking recommend. We've already had that disaster from George Lucas picking Kathleen in the first place when there was obviously better candidates there. But he seemed to have this sort of, I don't know, duty to pass the baton over to Kathleen for some reason. I still don't understand why he did it, because she's not proven. She was a good producer, a great producer even, but as a president overseeing an entire organisation, not even remotely fitting to take on that role.
A president with an agenda.
Oh yeah. I mean, Stephen, you can say it's politically motivated, but I don't think it is. I just think she genuinely hates Luke Skywalker at this point. The way that they have shot on the character from a great height, time and again, it can't be anything other than sheer, undiluted hatred for the character. Because like you said, the sequel trilogy's killed it. Because they're just linked to the Skywalker saga. They can't get away from it. They can't step it. Every time they try to step away, it flops. And when they do it now, it fucking flops as well.
I think that was one of her priorities, was to link that sequel trilogy and repackage Star Wars films as the Skywalker saga to make sure that that sequel trilogy was bookended, attached to those 6 original films. Obviously, they were by naming them Episode 7, 8 and 9, but to rebrand it the Skywalker saga once more, and then consider continuing it in episodes 10, 11 and 12.
No, that can't happen, I'm sorry. I just hope she, as someone famously says in a sort of Amish or commentary capacity, back in the day, I thought it was about 10 years ago, there was a guy on Justin TV, which has now became Twitch, used to commentate on Celtic games. There was one famous incident with Carlos Quella. Player of the year, now he's a DICK. He has to go, he has to get to fuck. She has to go, she has to get to you know what before any more damage is done. I'm kind of in agreement with you, Stephen. I don't think they can save this franchise now. I think the aura is dead. There's not enough younger people invested or even watching Star Wars content. They've probably not even watched the original Star Wars content at this point. It's a dead franchise like Terminator and Alien.
Yeah, it's becoming very cultist, John.
Yeah.
You know, and it didn't start out that way. It's really just the only people that seem to have a passion or interest are the people that probably did read Expanded Universe to a point. You know, and I think, just as you said, the generations that have come up now, they've got so much choice and so much variety that Star Wars isn't perhaps even in their top 5. just the way it's been handled, because there's nothing there. And the fact that they disregarded the EU stuff from the kick-off and said they were going to do it their own way, and then started cherry-picking sort of what they considered the best parts of expanded universe, and sort of putting them into their version of what they thought was the right blend, was just criminal.
The lack of Mara Jade, Stephen, killed it. I mean, you totally transform Luke if Mara Jade's in there. You've gave the guy purpose. You've gave this hopeful guy who's wanting to shake up what the Jedi Order was, I don't know, some reason to continue on that vision of modernising the Jedi. Because you go from the prequels, where they're this hubristic organisation that are shutting out all forms of emotion. You need to switch yourself off, and that leads to Anakin, because he's the complete opposite of that. He can't switch it off. He becomes so attached, and it has to be in secret, and that allows him to be manipulated and become Darth Vader. Then you go into the ramifications of that in the original trilogy, murdering and tyranny, and Luke has to come along and extinguish that and bring the good in his father back out. If you then continue with that vision and that sort of evolution, you have Luke marrying another Force user. She's not a Jedi when he meets her. And then they have children and they try and rebuild the Jedi Order. And his vision, where you're allowed connection, you're allowed to have sort of emotions coming into your life and you can use the Force, that's the perfect evolution. To make that character some embittered, angry old guy who's living a hermit life, he's not had any sort of marriage or anything, he's just this loner. That's a fucking absolute aberration, if that's the right word. It's abhorrent. They've completely killed it, stone dead, and now they want to go and recreate basically what Luke did in the expanded universe, but with Rey, and infinitely less likeable character.
I'm almost convinced, and as a filmmaker, Rian Johnson's a fantastic filmmaker, but I'm almost convinced that the studio were trying to sabotage the character in a way to really upset and annoy the hardcore fan base. But what they've done instead is they've killed the interest, the passion of that fan base, to the point they don't care now. They don't care about the franchise. It's not a case of, they'll get over it. They'll get over it. No, it's not a case of getting over it. It's just, there's no purpose. There's no connective sort of emotion for that fan base who grew up with the original Star Wars films. There's nothing left there. There's no attachment. I don't even go back and watch the original trilogy now.
It's been so long since I've watched it. I used to do it all the time, every year.
And they were my favourite trilogy for a very long time. But now it's just, whatever. Don't
It's
care.
to the point, Stephen, that once Andor Season 2 is done, and that's the sort of last connection bleeding into Rogue One, I may check out a Star Wars. I'm not going to lie.
So. I've not even had any inkling to watch Skeleton Crew, John. And
I've watched the first couple of episodes. It was fine, but very childish. Hard to watch as an adult when it's clearly catered to young kids.
I think Filoni becomes the next person in charge. He's got such a hard-on for a certain period that he's kind of
certain character.
Himself. He world build, in the Clone Wars and Rebels. I can't remember what one it is.
Rebels and Clone Wars, yeah.
But just, I think he's had his stint in terms of the Ahsoka series, and obviously his involvement as a producer as well. I think it's got to be someone, perhaps maybe that's if it's not Favreau, I don't think Feige's got the energy for this studio. Perhaps maybe about 10 years ago he might have, but I don't know who it's going to be. If it's going to be someone we know, or if it's going to be someone who's recommended by Kathleen Kennedy. But at this point, I don't really care, to be honest with you.
Stephen, I wouldn't even mind a Gareth Edwards. Not a Gareth Edwards, the other guy. Fucking Gareth Edwards was Tony Gilroy. Someone like that coming in who's not a Star Wars fan, but at least understands good storytelling and knows what the fans want to an extent.
I would
and
bring him in as a writer. I would definitely bring him in as a writer. I don't know about leading a studio.
No, not a studio, but certainly have an influence somewhere high enough up that he gets to veto. Because he came in and sorted out Rogue One and turned it into a coherent story.
It's funny how all these great writers as well, in terms of the novels, have never been utilised in writing.
Claudia Gray was brilliant. That Lost Stars, I think it was fucking sublime. Star Wars. These two figures, they go off in separate directions. One joins the Empire, one joins the Rebel Alliance. And the way that their stories interweave, sort of culminating in Jakku. She'd done the Leia as well, yeah. She's a great author.
Who was it? Tarkin?
Tarkin, I can't remember who done Tarkin. I'd have to search. Tarkin was great as well. Tarkin was a brilliant novel. Because it showed you... It was great reading that before going in and watching Rogue One. Because it showed you the hierarchy in Empire, how it was Palpatine, then Tarkin, and then Vader. Vader was actually below Tarkin, but they were up here and everyone else was down there. So when you then read that, you know the hierarchy, then you watch Krennic run into Vader, he bitch about Tarkin, you know, you're fucked, son. Because he's above Vader. And you going and bitching to him about Tarkin ain't going to make no difference. You are fucking dead and you don't even realise it. That was the sort of the high point. And it wasn't even the films, it was the actual novels filling in the blanks and making it interesting. I can't remember who wrote the actual novel. I don't know who wrote it. James Luceno, it was.
Yeah.
That was a very good novel. And there was another, there was a Vader one at the time as well, where it was Vader in his early days.
There's so many good writers out there, John, and I think they should bring them in. I think they should bring them in. They know how to world build. They know the characters very well.
What they need to do, though, Stephen, is get rid of Kennedy. She has to go. She's dead weight. She's get a hatred for at least half the fan base, and she's deliberately going out of her way to spite them. And you can't have someone like that in a position of power overseeing the creative sort of vision of Star Wars. You need someone who's going to unify the whole fan base, not going to spite half of them because she hates them. And someone that's not going to bring political agendas in and ulterior motives and fucking hates men and want to thrust just absolute fucking propaganda bollocks into every single story.
She can take her t-shirts with her as well.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah. That's what we need. We need someone who's going to come in and unify it and give us great stories. There's brilliant characters in the expanded universe that are sadly dead now. They can't do them, but they should have, because they're better than what we got. Like Mara Jade, brilliant character. Obviously, you've got Thrawn now, and I don't know what's going to happen with that. There's so much potential, but she has to go. Yeah. And I was delighted when I heard she was stepping down, and I hope she is stepping down, because she's fucking toxic. Toxic for Star Wars. We're getting the intro again for some reason. No idea why. Well, not now, because I've cancelled it. She's toxic. She has to go. She has to get the fuck. To quote that commentator from back. He's not a commentator. He was a guy sitting in his house watching a game, probably on an illegal stream, and commentating. But it was very funny. It really was. Player of the year. Now he's a... I don't know if you remember that, Steve. Do you remember that guy? Oh, you need to see if I can find the video and I'll show you it. Absolute stuff of legends. But I digress. Let's go round it up. What is your thoughts on the topics? Unless Stephen's got something to say, I'm presuming Stephen's done.
I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, you are done. So let's go with the audience now who may or may not be seeing this. If you're seeing this, you deserve a Blue Peter badge. Here's a reference that will probably go over your head. What's your thoughts on the topics we discussed? The obviously sad passing of Gene Hackman, legendary actor. We kind of divulged on that for about 15 minutes at the start. Thoughts on the MCU? Some fans, I'm not going to say fans, being disappointed at the initial concept art being leaked for Avengers Doomsday, and the fact Doctor Doom has a mask on, which is part of the character's appearance. They're not happy because a single photograph shows him with a mask on. Holy fuck, what is going on with people these days? What's your thoughts on that? Discuss it down below. Just the MCU in general. Academy Awards. And Kathleen Kennedy potentially stepping away from Lucasfilm. We can only but dream and pray that it's going to happen. Anything you want to share, put it down below in the comments section. Like the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get notifications on YouTube. Same thing over on Twitch, follow button, notifications button over there. And what's left to be said is thank you to the couple of commenters. I'll bring them up right now. Mike being one, Derpy Entertainment being the other. And what's left to be said is until next time.